you are all in good spirits, still in healthy condition, and also ready for the last 2 weeks, because this is already 13, yeah, and we only have one meeting left, which is on the 14th, right? On the 14th of this, I think on Monday or next week, yeah. So this is already the 9th. So our substitute lecture will be on the 14th. I will check the calendar. I think the time is will be determined later, yeah. So this is the lecture before the last lecture, so we still have one lecture left. And today's lecture is about quantum physics and smart materials, which I will share to you right on, yeah. So okay, first of all, I want to check if you already have the ability to see my lecture, this lecture today, yeah. Is everything okay with the screen and the sound?
Yes.
Okay. Right, I will directly address the lecture now. So today's lecture is about quantum, technology leap, and smart materials, which is, I think, an excited subject because of the impact of quantum physics to technology and also to the way we conduct our daily activities. One of the most important discovery in quantum physics is the discovery of microelectronics, in particular the discovery of diodes, yeah, and also transistors, which is one of the important building block of microelectronics. Since we are able to produce transistor, we are able to manipulate and direct the flow of electrons according to our intentions, and resulting in the fabrication of microstructures, microelectronics. For example, the possibility to build smart materials, smart electronic device like phones, very bright, also LEDs, television sets, and so on. So it is unimaginable if we live today without the application of quantum physics. So I will first start with the introduction. Yeah, what is actually quantum physics? Yeah? You maybe heard the word quantum a lot, like quantum healing, quantum learning. Yeah, but what is actually quantum? Yeah, the quantum meaning, yeah, from the Latin word quanta, is actually like a package or clumps, or like some sort of discrete and discrete things. Yeah. So a quanta can be defined as a discrete entity of something. Yeah. So for example, you have money in your wallet. There is a minimum amount of the value of money, like for example, $1, there is a cent. Yeah. So we also have for the coin of money a minimum amount of the smallest coin. Yeah. This we can call the quanta. So quantum physics in general, yeah, is related to this kind of property in the atomic level, yeah, which consists of energy, yeah, which we will study that energy can also be quantized, yeah, into clumps or discrete energies, yeah. So understanding physics on this scale will make it easier for us to understand the interaction between matter, yeah, and light also, yeah, and what its impact is to modern technology. It also allows us to better understand electrons and their properties, yeah, and its implication on electronics, microelectronics, microprocessors, and so on. And it allows us also to understand the physical properties of material at the very small scale. You know, the atomic scale is 10 to the power of -10, or in angstroms, which is a millionth of the thin of the hair, the size of the thickness of our hair divided by 1 million. So it's very, very small, and we cannot see it with our naked eyes. Yeah. Even if we use like biological microscope, we only can see like virus and microorganism. But to see very, very small objects such as DNA or crystallic arrays, yeah, we have to use electron microscope. Yeah, an electron microscope, they have a quantum property called wave characterization of wave properties, which enable us to focus on a very small scale. Yeah, produce resolution on a very small scale. This is also one of the applications of quantum in terms of microscopy or optics. Yeah, we can see a million times more smaller than the conventional atom used in biological laboratory, yeah, or optical visible light microscopy. This electron microscopy is far more high in resolution, yeah, because we use, as we will see later, the wave property of matter. Yeah. Electron can be seen as matter, and they have the property of this quantum wave. So before quantum mechanics, what was the world look like? It's not boring, yeah. It's not really bad, but it is, let's say, not as advanced as we have it now. Yeah, it was also fun. Yeah, but nowadays we have it more easily, more compact, and also more flexible. Yeah, in the old times, you watch television using a big tube. Yeah, and before transistor even exists. Yeah, it's very hard to imagine a homemade computer, yeah, because we don't have transistor, but we have triodes. If you see the radio before the 19th century, yeah, those radios were really big. It's like the whole, like a small table, yeah. And when you open the radio, you find those triodes like a cathode tube, yeah, but there are 3 of them, which functions is to like a charge carrier, and this device is really big because we have not invented transistor yet. After discovery of transistor, which made possible by quantum mechanics, we can make radio in the size of very small, in the size of mobile phones or even smaller than mobile phones. This is all because of the advance in understanding the atomic structure. Yeah. So we only need smaller device. We can make smaller devices based on that. So you can see here, Titanic, yeah, also airplanes and so on, but not as fun as we have it now. I mean, not as advanced as we have it now, because in the past, yeah, it is very hard to produce miniaturization, yeah, and what is actually the difference between Newton and quantum physics? So in quantum physics, we consider the microscopic realm, which is, if you know the movie Alice in Wonderland, yeah, when she entered the different world, yeah, entering under the tree, she finds that everything is different, yeah, that cats can speak, that animals can speak, even the plants look different, and so on, thing like that, yeah. And there is a cat that can disappear and so on. What I want to tell you is that in quantum mechanics, we have different rules of physics, because the dimension and the area that we consider is also very different for the or compared to our daily surroundings. Yeah, daily surroundings means that objects in the size that we can see, but this is something, a world that we never explored before, and we are actually at first very surprised that our laws of physics that applies to everyday object does not apply to this area, the microscopic realm. And after that, we try to perform experiments, and those experiments give surprising results, which can only be explained if we abandon the already known laws of physics for everyday laws, such as Newton's law. So in short, Newton's law does not apply to this object. Yeah. So in this new world of microscopic or atomic world, we have to use the new rules. Yeah. And these rules will reduce to the known rules once we go in the higher dimension, meaning in the higher size, which will reduce back to Newton's law. So the laws of quantum mechanics is more general than the laws of Newton. So this quantum mechanics will become Newton's law for ordinary object, but it also applies to atomic object. So the law of quantum mechanics is more general. Yeah. And this observation, is based on probabilistic principles, because there is no other way, no other better way to explain or to model the experiments. So quantum mechanics, you can see, is born from the experiments which deviate from our understanding of classical physics. If the experiments were the same for classical physics, we don't need this quantum mechanics. But it turns out to be following a different set of law. Yeah, and this process is happening. This revolution is happening around the beginning of the 19th century and ends in around 1950. Yeah, but it still go on still today. But the basic fundamental laws were already discovered after 50 years of struggle. Theoretical work start in 19th century, 1901, and ended. The basic principle were well understood, so around 1960. Yeah, 1960. So one of the surprising results is this wave-particle dualism, where quantum objects such as electrons or light, they have never a definite state, like fully particle or fully wave. You know the difference between particle and wave. Particle has a concentrated energy, wave has a sporadic energy. So there is no really clear boundary between particle and wave in the microscopic scale. So you cannot attribute like, oh, electrons in the atoms are particles. This is not possible because they are always in this kind of mixing state between particle and wave. Yeah. So there is no clear distinction between like a man and a woman in the scale of quantum. Yeah. And this is interesting because it will give you new perspective and new phenomena. Yeah. And also the act of observing, observing an experiment, observing a phenomena in quantum also change the condition of the state. Yeah. I mean, if you look at a table, for example, and measure the length of a table, it does not change the outcome. Yeah. Whether you look at it or you don't look at it. But in quantum physics, it is important whether you look at it or you don't look at it. It can change the outcome. So your observation of the experiment is part of the experiment itself. I mean, you are part of the system which can determine the outcome of the experiment. Yeah. This is called this measurement problem in quantum mechanics. Yeah. Depending on how you measure it, you can have different outcomes. So the difference also, after we study quantum physics, is that we understand that the classical picture of atom consisting of a nuclei and electron orbiting the nuclei, the core of the atom, is not correct. Yeah, the correct description is somewhat more foggy, somewhat more not so clear. But in quantum picture, we can only have this cloud of probability, more a statistical cloud of probability. In this sense, we can see an atom as merely consists of only guessing without even having a path or an orbit. So the electrons cannot be seen as particles. Even when you ask me what is an electron in the quantum picture, It's very hard to explain because electrons are particle and wave at the same time, can be even located at many things, many position, I mean, at the same time, and it's not defined so clearly as in classical physics. So we are left with this model that gives us only a probabilistic cloud, yeah, without giving a clear picture, yeah, which is the best that we can do for an atom. So in this in this sense, you can see the quantum picture of an atom. The core is very small, yeah, but we don't know the shape of the core, yeah. The electrons are mostly, yeah, likely, let's say likely, find where the density of the cloud is highest. So the electron can be found in the surrounding of the nuclei, but it can also be rather far away from the nuclei, depending on when we measure. After we measure, then we can see where the electron is. But before it, we can only guess. Yeah, this is called a probabilistic approach. Yeah. So one of the earliest history of the birth of quantum mechanics is this called black body radiation. In this black body radiation, you can later see that the energy is energy of the atoms that is oscillating because of heat, yeah, is not continuous but has a smallest value, which is an integer value of some kind of Planck constant, meaning that the energy is not continuous but can be discrete. Yeah, the energy can be discrete. Even though it's very small, it is not continuous. Yeah, and there is also another effect called the photoelectric effect. The photoelectric effect is when you have light shining into a metal, it can release the electron from the metal because the electron absorb the light. But the emission kinetic energy of the electron, yeah, the photoelectron, let's say the photoelectron, because they are emitted from the photon, yeah, because of the photon emitted from the metals, yeah. So the photoelectrons, these are electrons caused by the photons. Photon is the quanta of light. Yeah. The photoelectrons kinetic energy depends on the frequency, not on the intensity of the light. Yeah, this is the first proof that light consists of a quantum called photon. The third important discovery is when you shine light into an electron that is relatively isolated, it can produce like a billiard ball collision, as if the light is made of particles rather than wave-like properties, yeah, called the Compton effect. It shows the property of particles from a wave, yeah, particle nature from a wave. This based on symmetry, the wave properties can also be found for particles, yeah. So we have the particle property of a wave and the wave property of a particle. What? For example, the electrons in the very small scale, yeah, can be seen to have like wave behavior, yeah, because they have this of quantum wave called the de Broglie wave, yeah, de Broglie wave, meaning that particle possess wave properties, yeah. For daily particles, this is not so apparent because the wave is very small, like only in the diameter of several atoms. Yeah. So we cannot see these wave properties. We cannot feel these wave properties, but in the very small scale, this is an important property that must be taken into account. Yeah. And these wave-like properties from a particle has first observed experimentally by two physicists, Davison and Germer, who is the student from Rutherford. Yeah, Rutherford, a very famous physicist from New Zealand. Yeah, but conduct research in England. So the discovery of this quantum phenomena lead to the discovery of the transistor. Yeah. Because of quantum physics, we understand the property of electron, particularly in semiconductors. Yeah, at the beginning, semiconductors, we found that they have several energy levels and energy bands. Yeah, and we found out that they consist of valence band and conduction bands, and that we can classify them into three different classes called conductor, semiconductor, and also isolator, which is very important to understand. Yeah, also how the energy levels are filled. When we understand the energy level feelings, we can manipulate it and even create what we call now is a transistor. Yeah, consisting of a source, a drain, and a gate, which can also help us to understand, create, and model, manipulate the flow of electrons. This has led to the digitalization of technology. Means digitalization is the opposite of analog technology, right? This has enabled the digitalization of technology, producing microelectronics, with this kind of technology that we are enjoying right now. The first one is the black body radiation. So the black body radiation, what is this? It is an experiment, where we shine some light or some heat, we give some heat from electromagnetic radiation. You still remember the Stefan Boltzmann law, where the energy or density of energy radiation is dependent on the, not only on the wavelength, but also on the temperature and the power of 4. We call this Stefan Boltzmann law. And when you shine this heat into the black body, because of the small entry, after the wave enters, the heat enters the body, it will produce this zigzag, not zigzag, but it will produce this kind of reflection everywhere, and causing the atoms in the black body to oscillate because they absorb thermal energy. When they oscillate, they produce this kind of graphic. Yeah. Experimentally, this is the laser here. Yeah, it goes to a polarizer, and then after that goes to, this is the black body, and then this is the detector to measure the radiated heat. And they found out, that it produced this kind of Gaussian shape here, not fully Gaussian, but this kind of characteristic shape, this famous shape. And see here that it cannot be explained by the experiment on the, by theoretical models from classical physics. Yeah, they can produce good match for long wavelength and for short wavelength too. Long wavelength using Rayleigh-Jeans law, and short wavelength using the Wien's law. But to give the complete formula is only solved by Max Planck, a famous German physicist and father of quantum mechanics, because he is the first to find, in order to produce this experiment, one has to use a discrete energy, where h is the smallest coin or the smallest quanta of energy. In honor of Max Planck is now called the famous Planck constant, the smallest amount of possible energy. Only using this discretization, so the energy, of course, depends on the frequency, but now also depends on the multiplication of this H constant or Planck constant. Using this energy, discrete energy, he is able to explain this, but he is puzzled at the moment, because how can energy oscillate, radiated from this atomic oscillation here, to be discrete rather than continuous? This is a change in the fundamental way we look into energy, because here you see the energy turns out is not composed of a continuous level, but in discrete level. This is the first quanta observed. In this sense, you can imagine energy behaves like money, in the sense that money has the smallest amount. Like the smallest coin in rupiah is the 100. I don't see the 50 anymore. I don't see the 25. So every time you have to pay for something, you can only pay in terms of multiplication of 100 rupiah. So for example, the cost, is like 200 rupiah. You give 500, you get in change 300. But when some kind of price is like 75 rupiah, you give 100. Nowadays, you cannot get a change of 25 rupiah because the smallest is the 100. Yeah. So in this sense, Max Planck found out that the energy is not continuous, but indeed is a discrete. Yeah. It's a quanta. So this is a discovery that um, changed the way we look at fundamental physics. Yeah, it changed the way energy is very fundamental in physics. The second one is not only is the energy discrete, but it turns out that light itself consists of packets of energy. Yeah, this is the discovery by Einstein after he tried to interpret the results of the photoelectric effect. The famous photoelectric effect is the effect where light rays goes into a metals. Yeah, we call this cathode. You know, cathode has lots of electrons. And those cathodes can go to the anodes, the positive plate, because the electrons have negative charge. They go to the anode only if the energy from the light is sufficient to do so, which is the minimum energy to produce these photoelectrons. Yeah, the minimum energy is called the work function. So every metal has different work function in which they are able to release this energy. So if the energy of the right place is greater than the energy of the work function, then it will produce these photoelectrons. And the energy of the photon is given as, you can see, multiple amounts of integer of 1, 2, 3, only discrete amount of the Planck constant times the frequency. So the energy is directly proportional to the frequency. This is a quantum approach. Yeah, classically the energy is the light is seen as a wave. The energy is proportional to the intensity. But one found from this experiment that the energy is proportional to the frequency. And therefore, this proves that light can be seen as particle. So the particles itself can be seen as the light can be seen as particles, yeah, consisting of streams of quanta called photon. Yeah. It's like you look at the sea and you see like a straight line. After you zoom in, you see that this line actually consists of millions of fish, small fish, that align themselves to produce this white line. So it is like consisting of an army, of an array of millions of photons. Yeah. And this is one of the things that also is mind-blowing, in the sense that not only is energy discrete, but that light itself is also consisting of a discrete quanta called photon. Yeah, this is like in 1905. Yeah, this is the first time that we understand light is actually something consisting of a quanta. Yeah, we know in 1901 that energy consists of quanta. 4 years later, we understand that light also consists of a quanta, and this is something, yeah. Both of Einstein and Planck, they got Nobel Prize because of this. Yeah. So this discovery, once again, is something that will change our world. Yeah, it has already changed our world. The way we see things has led to technology that was unable to even imagine before the quantum physics. Yeah. That we understand now light can produce photoelectrons is the basics of solar cell technology, because solar cell technology applies energy from the light. So we have this photocurrent here. And to understand how photocurrent is generated, we have to understand quantum physics. Yeah. Oh, it turns out that the light itself will produce energy. Yeah. And this energy depends on the frequency. And one more thing is that when light goes into the cathode, it will, if the energy is larger than the work function of the metals, instantaneously, almost directly at the same time, produce an electron that is coming out from the cathode. Yeah. So there is no delay. If the light is seen as a wave, it should produce like a delay 10 to the power of minus 11 seconds before the electron is going out or is excited out from the cathode. And this we can measure in the current and the voltage. This is actually the stop voltage, meaning we can increase the voltage so that at the end there is no electron at all. We call this the stop voltage. And by adjusting the stop voltage, we can calculate the kinetic energy of the electrons. The higher the stop voltage, meaning the higher the kinetic energy of electron, because it means it's harder to stop the electron at this point. Yeah. This is actually very interesting, this experiment. Yeah. It shows that light is composed of a quanta called photon. Yeah. There are other explanations, but it failed to explain this experiment because, for example, physicists like Leonard, yeah, they don't want to admit that the light consists of photon. They say it's impossible. Why? But Einstein showed that when energy consists of discrete, yeah, discrete lumps or quantas, why not light is also consists of quanta? And these two I say like this mind-blowing phenomena that we now seen as one of the greatest discovery in modern physics. Yeah. Okay. And this you can see that actually you can open VHAT Colorado website, and they have this kind of I think in the practicum you already use this VHAT Colorado, but not in this this topic. Yeah. But here you can use the simulation to see how it actually works. Yeah. You can adjust the voltage, you can adjust the frequency, and higher frequency means higher photocurrent and kinetic energy. Yeah. So the formula actually, yeah, the kinetic energy of the electron is the energy of the photon minus, we call this the work function, or HF0, where F0 is the work function frequency. Yeah. So this means that if F is larger than F0, which is the minimum frequency, then there will be photoelectron produced. Yeah? If F is smaller than F0, no matter how high the intensity of the light, even you increase the intensity of the light, there will be no photoelectron produced. Yeah? So the first requirement is that the frequency of the light, the energy of the light must be higher than the work function or the minimum amount of energy. Yeah. Okay. So, for example, when you use like digital camera, yeah, then this is you use this photoelectric effect because the electrons, yeah, electrons from the film, yeah, in the film are actually photoelectrons because it comes from the light that is entering the camera, hitting the film, yeah. And this is also the reason why in the dark area, in the dark room, when you do photography, it's not so optimal because only small amounts of photon enter the camera. Yeah. Therefore, the picture is not so clear as in daylight. And the Compton effect is a direct example of collision between light and electrons. Yeah. Consider light as a wave, you will not have this kind of dependence. Because in the Compton effect, you really see that the light is composed of photons like billiard balls, yeah, which collide with another billiard ball according to the law of the conservation of momentum and energy. So you have this law of energy. Energy before must be equal to the energy afterwards. Yeah. You have also the momentum before. The sum of all momentum before, yeah, must also be the sum of the momentum after the collision. Yeah. And when you apply this de Broglie wavelength, yeah, you have P is equal to Planck constant divided by this. At the end, using these two conservation. Remember, this is the linear momentum law, meaning it's like you imagine like collision of two billiard balls, electrons at rest, and this is the photon, seen directly as particles. So you may argue, but in the double slit experiment, in the Fraunhofer experiment, the light is really looked as a wave. But in this case, this is what I said, that the type of observation can change the outcome. And in this kind, if we want to see the particle properties of electrons, we have to see, sorry, the particle properties of light. We have to make the setup in the photoelectric effect or like in the Compton effect. So our observation will interfere. Yeah? Our setup of experiment will cause the light to behave differently. If we use diffraction, yeah, it will also produce different outcome. Yeah, we can see light as a wave. Actually, there is one important slide that should be added here. Yeah, which is more related to this double slit experiment. Yeah, it's not explained here, but actually I have this quantum mechanics tutorial book. You can find in the internet. I write a book about quantum mechanics where I explain the double slit experiment. And there you can see that when we observe where light comes either from the slit 1 or the slit 2 in the Young's experiment, yeah, this Young double slit experiment is like this. You have light coming from the two sources here. Yeah, you have initial source like this. You have initial source like this, yeah, and then hits, and it will become new source according to the Huygens principle. New source, and they will produce this dark bright modes on the right. Yeah, and when we observe where the light comes from, it will give different result. Yeah, it's called the double slit quantum experiment. It's very recommended to watch this in YouTube or in the books. Yeah, read in the books. It really show you how the observation will interfere with the experiment. And this should be also, maybe I will add in the slide for the next year, yeah, because this is not input here. So you can see that the change in the energy can be calculated using this formula, meaning that the wavelength after the collision becomes smaller because there is increase in energy. Yeah, wavelength is inversely proportional to energy. So when the wave gets smaller, meaning energy is higher. Yeah, and wave gets higher, energy is smaller. In this case, wavelength gets higher, meaning energy is lost because of this collision. And what is important also is that the angle of after the collision, the angle of collision, yeah, recoil angle, yeah, between scatter photon and recoil electron really follows the law of momentum conservation for two particles. Yeah, this is striking. Yeah, you see. Compton, Arthur Compton, Max Planck, and Einstein, all of them get Nobel Prize. Yeah. Because what they find is something very fundamental. And this Compton effect is like the final coffin, the final nail, I mean, the final undebatable statement that light really can be seen as particle. It is unquestionable after this. Yeah. So all the physicists believe after the Compton effect. Yeah. Before the Compton effect, physicists have rather like dubious, yeah, not really sure. But after the Compton effect, yeah, it's all are like acknowledge that okay, no, it's There is no question anymore. Yeah? Light can be seen wave and sometimes as particle. And this is actually interesting because I'm sorry, Newton first think of light as particle actually. Yeah, Newton is one of the proponents of particle nature of light. But after that, Christian Huygens and Young convinced the community that Newton was wrong. And after like 300 to 400 years after that, we go back to Newton's argument that Newton's was also right. So light is tricky. Yeah, light can be particle and wave at the same time. So in the experiment, which also you can guess, result in a Nobel Prize, was first proposed by the student of Rutherford, Davison and Germer. Yeah? Davison and Germer, what they did is they calculate when an electron beam, yeah, which is considered as a particle, hits a nickel target. They found that most of the electrons are diffracted, not all, yeah, but most of the electrons are reflected at a diffraction electron beam, which again follows the law of as if they are particles. Yeah. So this kind of discoveries are so mind-blowing. It's like how the electron knows that they have to behave like this, that the angle is in the most of the diffraction electron beam angle, most of them are diffracted in as if they were particles, but they are, sorry, as if they were waves. Yeah. I said this experiment is similar like the Bragg experiment. Yeah. Like you have this kind of atomic layer and light comes here. Yeah. And you have this kind of different path. Yeah. D sin theta is equal to n lambda. You know this experiment. This is conducted by light, right? For light, yeah. But this is electron, you know. Electrons should be particles. They should not follow this law classically. But because in quantum, people say they have this property of wave, first proposed by de Broglie, yeah. Then this law should help, yeah, even for electrons, yeah. Electrons, even they are particle considered, yeah, particles, but actually they are particle wave duality, yeah. Because at the time people don't believe in particle wave duality. So it turns out that electrons have this kind of diffraction, following the law as if they are like waves. Yeah, they have actually this quantum wave. This quantum wave gives you the probability. The quantum wave gives you the probability. Yeah, this is the symbol of quantum wave. That the electron is mostly diffracted in this direction, and when you detect it, you see that they are indeed following this quantum wave, yeah. And this is again mind-blowing, yeah. And one of the surprises, big surprises of quantum mechanics. Duality, yeah. We call it duality. Okay. Yeah, and this wave property and relation to momentum and Planck constant is given by the de Broglie wavelength. Yeah. De Broglie is actually a nobleman from Europe, from France, yeah, who is actually one of the descendant from the royal family of France, yeah. But his interest is in physics. He wants to be a scientist, and he fought a very famous relation. Actually, the first person who believed in de Broglie, even the promoters, the professors, they don't believe in the dissertation. Yeah, he was doing a doctoral study in Sorbonne, I think, in France. Yeah, and they sent the manuscript, the thesis sent to Einstein, and Einstein said, "Hey, you know, this idea is crazy. Yeah? Just crazy as when I thought that light can be made of particles. It's a crazy idea." But it turns out that this crazy idea makes sense. And so I would say that the Broglie hypothesis that particles have this kind of wave properties is crazy, but can make sense. Yeah? Einstein said like that. So Einstein said there is no objection why we should not believe in this. Yeah, actually this is crazy idea. Why electron can behave like a wave, but when wave can behave like a particle, why not particle behave like a wave? So this is like a breakthrough, yeah, which Einstein approved, yeah, And he was correct. Yeah. De Broglie was correct, and Einstein believed in him. And result in the discovery of like electron microscopy. Yeah. So, yeah. Okay. And okay. So the discovery of quantum mechanics also results in the progression of our understanding of atomic models. What is actually an atom? Yeah. How is the atom construct? Yeah. How is the atom actually consisting? All of the matter consists of atoms, and how do they look like? First, Thomson, yeah, propose a model that atoms can be like a kismis, raisin bread, yeah, or watermelon. Means the positive and electrons are spread like a plum pudding or like a raisin model. Yeah. It turns out, based on the experiment by the Rutherford, the great physicist, Nobel Prize, yeah, that actually there must be a very, very strong core, because when they shine these alpha particles, yeah, out of 1 million, like 2 or 1 is reflected very strongly, as if a bullet, yeah, hits a thin piece of paper and return almost 100%. Yeah. It's only possible if there is a very strong core. In other direction, they will pass through. This is the first evidence of the existence of a very positive core, and this core diameter is very small compared to the diameter of the atom. In fact, if you have the like apple, small apple, as the core, yeah, of the atom, a small apple, the diameter is equal to the diameter of the IPB Dharmaga campus, you know. Yeah, so the IPB campus, which is, I think, quite large university, as soon as the total diameter of the atom, the core is only like the diameter of the core is like the apple. Yeah. And after the discovery of quantum mechanics, yeah, Niels Bohr, one of the founding father of quantum physics, discovered that when the electrons rotate around the core, they must radiate some energy, yeah, based on the classical electrodynamics. When a charge is accelerated, they will radiate energy. But this is not happening in atoms. So the rules of the atoms must somehow behave differently than the rules of daily life objects. Yeah. So they don't radiate energy, otherwise they will fall or collapse to the core. So how can this happen? Is that he proposed a stationary energy levels. They can only orbit as long as it follows this kind of standing wave pattern. So what is this? What is this wave? He says quantum wave. He cannot explain what equation governs this quantum. He say, no, I don't know. Because it was not discovered until Schrödinger. Erwin Schrödinger discovered the equation, which is not given here. Yeah, but the equation looks like this because this is stationary. Actually, this is an eigenvalue equation. Yeah, which you will learn when you study physics in the higher level. This is the Schrödinger equation, but de Broglie doesn't have this equation. He doesn't know. Schrödinger equation is around 1920 or 1925, I think. And this model is proposed like 1910 or something like that. Yeah. So the hydrogen atoms can be explained by using the Bohr model, but cannot be used for other more complex atoms. Yeah. So only for the hydrogen it works, and this is not enough, of course. Yeah. one of the main postulate or assumption by Niels Bohr is that the atoms, electrons, move around the core nucleus, in steady circular orbit. This is the key, in steady orbits, which cannot be explained by classical mechanics. And people get confused. How can you have this kind of assumption? And it was shown by Schrödinger. The steady circular orbits are actually the solution of an equation which called, now to honor him, the quantum equation, the dynamical equation of quantum mechanics. More precise, non-relativistic, quantum mechanics. The dynamical equation of quantum mechanics is the Schrödinger equation, which can explain the steady circular orbit. Actually, is an eigen solution of this equation, which was given by me before. But before that, Bohr already guessed, without knowing the equation. It was a smart guess, but not enough to prove, that the quantum mechanics followed equation is discovered after him. After he discovered, Schrödinger discovered the equation, that he discovered this steady circular orbit as one of the postulate or assumption, which turned out to be correct. Okay. And the difference between the energies of one orbit to the other orbit is given by this law. I can give you if this is the core and these are the energy level. So the electrons can only exist if they are in these stationary orbits, either 1, 2, and there are also 3 and 4 and so forth, higher orbits. And they can even move from one orbit to the others if the energy is enough. If the energy is equal to the energy, for example, electron that is hit by photon or light, photon have energy of high F1. It can move to, after absorbing the energy, move to higher level, meaning the nearest and the ground state, the lowest energy level, has the maximum negative energy because it's the minimum. The A1 for hydrogen atom is minus 13.6. And E2 is given by minus 13.6 for hydrogen, divided, you can see here, by 4. Which is, because 2 squared is 4, is around 3 point something electron volt. Still minus. So this is the lowest energy level is like minus 13, and after that minus 4 something. Meaning when they gain energy, they can go to the other energy level only if the photon energy is enough for them to jump. And minus 13.6 and minus 4 energy difference is around 9 electron volt. When the light has around 9 electron volt, it can excite the energy from one level, one orbit to the other orbit. We can say from one energy level to the other energy level. Okay, only if the energy is enough. And because, for example, here you can see for hydrogen atoms, those energy can be observed in the bright spectrum, electromagnetic spectrum. If you have light like UV spectroscopy from 350 to 800 nanometer, corresponding to from 1 to 3 electron volts. 1 to 3 electron volts. This is visible region, and you see that the only allowed radiation, because electron can only move if the energy is right from this to this to this, yeah, they will radiate light when they come back. This process we call relaxation. When an electron come back from the higher level to back to the ground state or back to the lower level, they will emit a photon. They will emit a photon and produce in spectroscopy a line, yeah, in the emission spectrum. And this line exists in the electromagnetic spectrum. In the visible, we call it the Balmer series, right? Balmer series is first discovered by Balmer using numerical theory, yeah. I mean, like number theory, just like playing with numbers. But the explanation comes from Bohr and was then extended for multi-electron atoms by Schrödinger, yeah. So these are the Balmer, Lyman, Paschen, and these are for different. You don't. I think you only have to remember like for the test, and after that you can forget again. So Lyman spectrum is the spectrum that in the ultraviolet. Yeah, when you have ultraviolet light into an atom, you will produce this spectrum. You cannot see this using visible spectroscopy. You cannot see this. But when you use infrared spectroscopy, for example, you can see the bracket lines. Yeah. Okay. So actually, what I teach you today is the introduction to quantum physics only. Yeah. Okay. And this is the Davison-Germa experiment that I told you before. You can read it by yourself. Yeah. And you know the applications are actually so intense that I can ensure you that most of you have more in possession of transistors than in possession of money. Yeah, there are like millions of transistors in your laptop. We can say maybe close approaching to like 1 billion transistor in a device, smart device. Yeah, so many transistors do we have, more than the money, right? So it means when you own a phone, a laptop, you have millions of transistors. And these are very small devices that was able first produced by Schottky, yeah. In what I don't know where, but it's somewhere in maybe Silicon Valley nowadays, yeah. I don't know if it's Bell Laboratory or not, but it's 1960 transistor were discovered, yeah. One of the major milestone of microelectronics technology. A milestone. Even this process, more over the 50 years, yeah, shows you fundamental research is important. You cannot only research technology without researching the fundamentals. We cannot understand. We cannot build a transistor without know the contribution from Einstein, Bohr, Schrödinger, de Broglie, and so on. Yeah. So even they are working very theoretically, we use the theory for making the technology. Yeah. So fundamental and basic research, fundamental and advanced, fundamental and applied research must be hand to hand. Yeah, we cannot only prioritize on applied research. And it's also research in many important discovery like metamaterials. In the future, maybe we can produce this kind of technology where light can be deflected from the material because of the internal structure of the materials. Yeah, if you want to find out, you can watch this YouTube. But these are application of quantum physics. We're able to produce this lithography, this kind of discovery, because we have the ability to manipulate the nanoscale using quantum mechanics technology, such as electron etching, yeah, lithography, and so on. And also quantum computers, you can read by yourself. Yeah, these are computers based on not on 0 but 1 Boolean algebra, but more of the superposition principle. That because of the spin property, for example, the electron can exist in up, down, and the in-between state. Yeah, you can read more about the quantum computers. But the key is to understand qubit. Yeah, bits is only 0 or 1. Qubits is the possibility to have 0 and 1 at the same time. Yeah, so you have more probability to compute because you have more room. You have more room for this. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So this is, I think, all that I want to say for today. You can see this person. He says thank you. Maybe I'm already not here, but you can still find my work everywhere. Yeah. So if there is any questions, you may ask. Yeah. Is there any question or comments regarding this lecture? Yeah. So this is actually not an in-depth lecture, but more of like giving you the picture about the qualitative picture about quantum physics and what it is. Yeah, not very deep lecture, but at least you know that it's impossible to have this kind of technology without quantum physics. We still have one meeting left on the 24th. The 14th of June. After that, please prepare for the test. Yeah, and also don't forget. Yeah, don't forget that we have also in the LMS system this lecture problem solving. Yeah, set of problem solving set, which is given. Yeah, I will also share the screen again. Yeah. This I already have translated for you, and some are already given with the answer. This is the type of problem that can occur in the final test. Yeah? And it's better for you to open and study them. Okay, if there is no questions from you, yeah. Actually, I expect that there is no question because you are mostly of you don't ask question. But okay, let's. I wanna ask Muhammad Ramadan. Yeah, can you turn on the speaker, Muhammad Ramadan?
Sir.
Yeah. What do you think about the impact of this lecture? Maybe it's hard for you to understand very deeply, but at least you can appreciate the technology is based on quantum mechanics now, right? So, what's your comment on this lecture? Can you give comment about the lecture, whether it is interesting or not? It's okay. I want an honest opinion, right? Doesn't affect your score. Okay. Yeah. Oh, is it interesting or not? Can you give like comments? Hello, Muhammad Ramadan. Yeah, maybe he has problem with connection. Yeah. My question is, what is your conclusion about this lecture? Yeah. What is this lecture about? What do you think about this lecture? Can you give an answer? Yeah. Pavin Kumar maybe when Ramadan doesn't answer.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Yeah, I hope you don't feel bored. Can you give a comment about this lecture?
For me, this chapter is kind of new for me because I haven't learned in my foundation level yet.
Yes.
So yeah, I think it's kind of interesting for me.
Okay, thank you for your honest answer.
Yeah,
yeah, so important for you, yeah, all of my students, yeah, to understand the basic principle of quantum, yeah. First, discretization of energy, discretization of light, consisting of particles, and the particle itself, like an electron, has the electronic wave properties. Yeah, has these wave properties. What kind of wave? Actually, probabilistic wave. Yeah, no one really knows what is the wave. Yeah, and after that, you can, based on quantum mechanics, have models of atoms. Which the newest model is only atoms is like a vacuum picture of probabilistic clouds. Yeah. You cannot really know what is the picture of electron, what is the light, because we cannot imagine a path. Yeah, we cannot imagine a shape. We cannot only imagine from mathematics. Yeah, it's like a probability. Yeah, and one of the main application is also especially transistors, also laser and something like that. Yeah, laser, energy level, solar cells, and so on. If there is no more question from you, then I will meet you again in the next lecture on the 14th of June. Yeah. Thank you for your attention and good afternoon, everyone. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Keep your spirit and stay healthy. Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you, sir.
Yes.
Thank you, sir. Waalaikumsalam.
Sir.
Bye bye. Thank you.